Across all exam boards, most English exam questions ask you to incorporate your knowledge of contextual issues into your essay responses. Context involves everything which may be a significant factor in the text's production or reception. There are many different contexts that could be relevant to discuss depending on the text you're investigating and the specific argument you're making. These could include the autobiographical context, the historical context, the political or social context, the literary context, or the genre context. Context, in other words, concerns the factors which exist around the text. Remember that unlike in a history essay or politics essay, our focus is always on analysing the text itself, so any contextual information you include in your essay needs to service the argument you are making about the novel, poem, play, or piece of non-fiction you are studying. Make sure that the context teaches your reader something about the text, and not the other way around. Getting the balance right between textual and contextual discussion is always important, and the specific amount of time you should devote to discussing context will depend on the course you're on and the question you're answering. Alongside this, you will also need to make sure that when you include contextual information in your writing, you are doing so in a way that feels like it's naturally integrated into your argument. Here is an example essay answering a literature question on Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. How does Shelley explore the theme of human ambition in Frankenstein? In Frankenstein, Shelley presents ambition as a deep human yearning which motivates reckless behaviour. In the epistolary opening section of the novel, we are introduced to the character of Captain Robert Walton, an Arctic explorer who is symbolic of the scientific ambition to fully understand the universe. He writes enthusiastically to his sister Margaret that the various secrets of the Arctic region promises to reveal are sufficient to conquer all fear of danger or death and to induce me to commence this laborious voyage with the joy a child feels when he embarks in a little boat with his holiday mates on an expedition of discovery up his native river. At this point in the novel, Shelley sets Walton up as a character whose ambitious qualities seem admirable. He is brave and seems determined to pursue his ambitions not for personal glory, but for the inestimable benefit which I shall confer on all mankind. It is later that we see that Walton's actions are not selfless but reckless, with little concern for the safety of his crew. The simile, where Walton compares himself to a child in a little boat on an expedition of discovery, shows he sees his curiosity and desire to explore as natural and as innocent as a child's adventurous spirit. Later in the novel, after Victor Frankenstein's cautionary tale, we realise the full significance of Shelley's imagery of childhood. Walton's ambition may be natural, but it's also naive and misguided. This is a good response in its discussion of the theme of the question and Shelley's literary methods. However, there are certain pieces of contextual information that are conspicuously missing here, and therefore would not meet the requirement of the assessment objectives. But we must be careful not to just add context for the sake of it. Here, I have added some contextual information which is loosely relevant to the idea of science in the 19th century, but it doesn't connect very well to the argument we are actually making. There are other facts that would actually serve our specific arguments. For example, intellectuals in the Enlightenment period, when the novel was written, had a strong desire to pursue knowledge and understand the universe. The mythic figure of Prometheus is the archetype of the spirit of over-ambition known as overreaching. The genre of tragedy often features a character whose hubris, excessive pride, proves disastrous. As you can see in this example, the context has now been integrated within our response. The first piece of information adds some specificity to what we were saying about the character of Robert Walton, linking him to the Enlightenment movement of the time. The second and third points talk about the character of Walton in relation to the genre of tragedy and the character of Prometheus. In this way, Walton is presented as a figure of hubris and a dramatic foil character to the tragic hero Victor Frankenstein. Like Frankenstein, Walton's ambition also makes him an overreacher like Prometheus, the mythic figure alluded to in the novel's alternate title. Shelley seems to be warning humanity about the price and danger of ambition. The reason why this use of contextual information is effective is that it is thoroughly connected to the argument the point makes. It supports the argument that was put forward in the initial topic sentence about Shelley representing ambition as motivating reckless behaviour, and therefore makes our case more convincing. Try to make sure that any context you use supports your argument, and this will help your essays to be more cohesive and ultimately more effective at conveying your ideas.